Hey everybody, for the last couple months, I've been on the hunt for the perfect DC power box, and I'm hoping that I found it right here. This little box is perfect for camping or setting up in your vehicle because it's somewhat affordable and plug and play. All you have to do is connect it up to a 12-volt source right here, and it even comes with the wiring that's needed for that. Now, what does this do? Well, it gives you a bunch of DC output options and some other features. For example, it does have this display which gives you a bit of information. You have two of these 12-volt sockets for connecting up 12-volt loads along with these 5521 barrel ports. It gives you 4 USB-A ports and 2 USB-C ports, including a 100-watt port, which would be perfect for powering up a Starlink Mini. You also have a built-in LED light, and then if you need higher amperage connections, you do have 3 Anderson SB50s, which are these gray ones. These are for high DC output. Now, of course, you can always go the DIY route like I did last year when I built this DC power box. The downside to this is you need some specialty tools to put it together. It took a lot of time and effort, and this does not have 100-watt power delivery USB-C output. In the past, I've tested a box like this. This is really simple, but it just didn't offer everything that I was looking for. So I really think this option here is a balance of affordability and features that are available. So I'm excited to test this out. For anybody that's interested, I did purchase this on Amazon for $74.99 plus shipping. And this is what you get in the box. You get the actual DC power box. You get these mounting brackets. The mounting brackets are pretty cool because on the back of this, you have 2 of these plastic covers that are removable. Once you remove those, you can attach the brackets. You get the power cable that has ring terminals so you can attach it to a battery. You get 3 of these Anderson SB50 connectors so you can connect up loads to these 3 ports here. And of course you get the owner's manual. Powering up the device is super easy. You take the included power cable, connect it up to a battery, and then plug it into the black port and it powers on. Now the screen is on for a few seconds and then it shuts off after a few seconds to save on power. So when it's off, you can turn it back on by pushing this button here. Now, as for the display readout, you do have the wattage here on the front of your loads. You have an ambient temperature and also the voltage of your battery. Whenever the device is connected up to power, it is always on. So I was curious how much power it's using, and it's 1/10 of an amp. So it's about 1 watt whenever the screen is on. So very low power usage, and you could always put a power switch in line here to shut it off when not in use. This box is good for a little over 650 watts at 12 volts or 50 amps. You can pull 20 amps from each one of these 12-volt sockets. You can pull 10 amps from each one of these 5521s. You can use the USB ports. And then, of course, you have the Anderson SB50 connections on the side, good for 50 amps each. The only thing you have to worry about is the total power consumption cannot go over 50 amps because the owner's manual mentions a resettable 50 amp breaker on the inside. And, of course, we'll be verifying that through a teardown later in the video. So let's go ahead and move forward with the testing. I have the power box connected up to this compact 300 amp hour battery. I have my 1500 watt electronic load that will be testing each one of these ports for max power output and to see if they have overcurrent protection. So it'll be interesting to see what we get on each one of these ports. We'll be starting our testing with the cigarette ports. Now the owner's manual states that this is rated for 20 amps. There's 2 of them, so I'm not sure if it's 10 amps each or 20 amps each. So let's see what happens. I have a 10 amp load set up. So let's start pulling 10 amps. You can see right here, we're pulling 131 watts and 10 amps. Now, if you look at the screen here, you can see the wattage is not calculated through these 2 ports here. So the wattage on the screen must be tied into the USB ports. So the test has been going for about 5 minutes so far, and we haven't had any issues. It's still pulling 10 amps. Let's step it up to 12 amps. And see if it shuts off. So we are pulling 155 watts, 12 amps. How long can it handle this load? Now this load's been going for about 3 minutes so far. Let's try to step it up to 15 amps and see if it can handle it. So now we're pulling 191 watts and 15 amps. So let's see, can it handle 15 amps continue? Oh, you can see that the voltage dropped down and so did the wattage. So 15 amps, it does have overcurrent protection. Next, I've moved on to the second port here. We have a 12 amp load, so let's go ahead and turn that on. So we are pulling 155 watts at 12 amps. Let's let this go for about 3 minutes or as long as it will. Let's see if we can handle it 12 amps. So it's been a few minutes at running that 12 amp load. Let's just see if it'll surge to 20 amps. So 20 amp load, turning on, 250 watts, 20 amps. and it shuts off pretty quick, but it does allow a brief surge of 20 amps before it shuts off. Moving on to the 5521 ports, these are rated at 10 amps. I have an 8 amp load, so let's go ahead and turn that on. So we are pulling 104 watts and 8 amps. Let's see if it can handle it for at least 3 minutes. So it's been going for about 3 minutes so far at 8 amps. Let's step it up to 12 amps. Let's see if it will run a 12 amp load. So after a couple minutes, it's still running the 12 amp load. Let's go ahead and throw 15 amps on it. This will basically be the same test as the 12 volt cigarette port at this point. So 189 watts, 15 amps. Is it going to overload the 5521 when we're pulling this much power? Now it did shut off that 15 amp load. It just took a little bit longer. You can see 0 volts, 0 watts, and we are disabled at the 5521 port. So for testing the second port, we're going to go straight to 15 amps. I'm going to try to keep the screen on so you guys can see it. So let's enable 15 amps right there. Okay, so 15 amps, 189 watts. Let's refresh the screen just so that it stays on for another 30 seconds. Seems to stay on for about 30 seconds before the screen goes to sleep. Okay, there it goes. Shuts off the output. 0 watts, 0 volts, so there is overcurrent protection on all 4 of these ports if you go 15 amps or above. In my final test, I want to see if you can pull 10 amps through each one of these at the same time. So I have a 20 amp load set up. Let's go ahead and turn that on. So we are pulling 250 watts and 20 amps. Let's just let this go for a bit and see if it shuts off. So it's been about 5 minutes and we are still running the 20 amp load. Just be aware the fans you hear in the background are for my DC electronic load, not for this box. This doesn't have active cooling. We're showing 13.2 volts here, and that's because we're just running a large load. And so the state of charge ring here, I wouldn't think that's super accurate when you're running a large load just because it's going off the voltage drop that you're seeing through the sourcing cable. So I would only rely on the state of charge indicator as an estimate when you're not running a load at all. Changing gears a bit, let's go ahead and test the USB ports. So the power delivery 20 watt port is charging this power bank here. You can see at my tester, we're showing power delivery 3.0 at 20 watts. So that first port is working properly. Moving on to the 100 watt power delivery port, we are showing 107 watts going out from this unit, 98 watts going into this device, so just a little bit of efficiency loss. But on my tester, I am showing power delivery 3.0 at 100 watts, so that one is also programmed properly. Moving on to the USB-A port, we are seeing 12 watts out from the box into charging this power bank. We are showing dedicated charging protocol, so right around 5 volts and 1.8 amps. Now we are getting the same results using the second USB-A port. And finally, moving on to the quick charge ports, we are seeing 21 watts out to charge this power bank and 18 watts in. I am showing quick charge 2.0 protocol at 12 volts, so right around 12 volts and 1.5 amps. And we're basically seeing the same results from the final quick charge USB port. Now what about using the USB ports and the 12 volt output options at the same time? Well, I have the USB-C 100 watt port charging this power bank. You can see 106 watts going out. I also have my electronic load connected up to the 12 volt socket. We are pulling 126 watts at 10 amps. So it does appear that you can use both at the same time. So what have we learned from the testing so far? Well, we can pull about 12 amps continuous from each of the 12 volt outputs, and it does allow us to pull from multiple ports at the same time. So if you get up to about 15 amps on each port, or even 20 amps, it will shut off from overcurrent protection turning on, so that's good. It has that protection built in. Now when it comes to the USB ports, they do work as advertised, and you can use the USB ports and the 12 volt output at the same time. Now I mentioned earlier that this does have a light. The light is built in. You just have to press this light button, and there are multiple settings. So you can see that there. You have quite a few settings with the light. I do like that it has the built-in light, and it's definitely a diffused light, so it kind of shines throughout the entire room instead of just being a spotlight that's just right in one area. So it's nice to have that diffused light. Well, now that we've tested all the outputs on the front of the power box, what about this side connections? They're rated for 50 amps. So I've connected my load tester up to one of those SB50 connections. I'm going to turn on a 50 amp load, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, we are pulling 50 amps. 636 watts, 50 amps. Let's let this go for a little bit. Remember, this does have some sort of overcurrent protection listed at 50 amps. So will it shut off if we are pulling 50 amps continually? So after about 1 minute of running the 50 amp load, it is still going. Let's step it up to 60 amps and see if it will shut off. So now we're pulling 754 watts at 60 amps. Let's give this a minute or so and see if it shuts off. So it's still running the 60 amp load. Let's step it up to 70 amps just to see what happens. So enter. Okay, 870 watts, 70 amps. I'm really hoping there's some sort of current protection because the source wires, they are silicone wires, but they are 8 gauge. So you're getting significant voltage drop through this sort of load. They're not super warm, but we are pulling 70 amps. Let's let this go for a little bit longer, and then maybe we'll step it up to 80 amps, and maybe we'll see some sort of protection. But right now, I don't think we're going to see it. So it's been about a minute of running 70 amps. This is the last thing I'm going to do. I'm going to step this up to 80. That is a ton of power. 80 amps, 982 watts. These wires are going to get a little bit toasty now. We are seeing the temperature rise on the inside of the box at this point. I think it's safe to say that, oh, there we go. It reset. It kind of scared me. It got a pretty big pop. So let's go ahead and turn off this. Okay, and we're gonna see how long it takes for it to turn back on. So after about 20 seconds, it did turn itself back on. But remember, we had to pull 80 amps to get it to trip. So I'm curious what size of breaker they have on the inside of this. So let's go ahead and do a teardown and see what's on the inside. Opening the device should be pretty easy. There were some rubber pads on the back that I removed with a knife. So now I have 4 screw holes. So all we have to do is take out these 4 screws and we should be able to access the inside. So let me go ahead and remove these 4 screws. So with the 4 screws removed, we can pop this out. Okay, and it looks like it goes this way. Wow, we got a bit going on in here. I was not expecting this much circuitry. So we do have a control board. We have the ribbon cable for the display that wraps around to the front. We have a heat sink here for the LEDs, power for the LEDs. And this is probably a power switch here. We do have a temperature sensor down here at the bottom that goes over here. There's a small hole on the side. So that's good. Now looking at the control board, I am noticing they have some shunts here. So one here for this 12 volt socket, one here for this 12 volt socket, and then one here for this, both of the 5521s. So that's how they're able to sense the current there. And they are using 12 gauge wire for both of these 12 volt sockets. So good to see proper conductor size there, rated at 20 amps continuous. It's good. Now if we look at this side, it's nice and neat. We do have our circuit breaker here. For the main conductors, these are 8 gauge wires. And all 3 of these grays are connected together in parallel. So if we follow the wire from this bottom one to the top one, and then over here, and then over here, it connects behind the fuse. So these are protected with the fuse. And then if I follow the negative wire for all 4 of these, it comes from the bottom into the board, but then all of them are tied together, the negatives. And then your main positive input is on the front of this breaker. Feeling these wires, they're actually not warm at all, even though we just pulled a ton of amps through them. They are silicone wires. Looking at this breaker here, it says 52PQ or P0, T1-50-24V. So 24 volt, 50 amp. And it did work properly, at least once it got to current temperature that it needed to pop at. And then it resets. That's pretty cool. But yeah, very good build quality in here, especially for only $75. What would be interesting is if you could take this whole thing out and then maybe replace one of these 12-volt sockets with something else like an XT60 or Anderson power pole, because most people aren't going to be using two 12-volt sockets. But the other option is maybe connecting an adapter up to one of these connectors here to give you like Anderson power pole or XT90 or XT60. I mean, there's a lot of options for kind of a DIY setup like this. So we just got everything put back together, but I also wanted to show you guys the mounting locations. So you remove both of these plastic pieces, and you have two metal brackets that come in the box with the screws, and these just slide in, and then it gives you a way to flush mount this box. So you can flush mount it that way, or you can kind of get creative. Let me just slide these back in. What I was thinking is you could probably put a large piece of Velcro on the back and also mount it directly to a battery. So lots of different mounting options for a box like this because it's just so lightweight. So after completing all the testing on this DC power box, I'm actually impressed with how it performed, but it's definitely not perfect. The two things that I don't like, well, the display only shows the wattage consumed by the USB ports. It doesn't include the 12-volt output. So I'd love to see that, but obviously it's not going to work for this device. The other thing was the 50 amp breaker. It definitely tripped, but at 80 amps. So I'd recommend maybe having an external breaker on this just for extra safety. So 50 amp DC breaker would work just fine. Now, how would I use something like this? Well, personally, I'd just put Velcro on it and slap it to the top of a battery like this 300 amp hour compact battery. They make many different brands of these, but they're the same form factor. So excellent USB options, excellent 12-volt output, display with voltmeter, temperature gauge. Pretty awesome setup there, especially for running a Starlink Mini. Another way to use this would be if you had an overlanding rig or a van setup. You could just mount it inside your vehicle, just directly to like a cabinet or something like that, and you could power your 12-volt fridge, charge your mobile devices with this, just running straight from the house batteries. And then the same setup for maybe a trailer or an RV. I know that a bunch of trailers and RVs have horrible 12-volt and USB options, so this would be a fairly simple upgrade, just running power directly from your house batteries to this and then putting this on the wall. And hey, you even get the light that's built in. So let me know what you guys think about this distribution box or this mini power box. Like I said, I did buy this for $75 plus shipping. I think shipping was around $15. So it's right under $100 with tax. And so the price of this comes out to be pretty similar to the price of this, except for this took me a long time to build and put together and plan, when this is something I could just buy and start using. So it's more of a plug and play setup. There you go, guys. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I will include the link to this down in the video description if you guys are interested, along with the video on how to build this one if you're interested in that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.